You walked in for a $10 pack of light bulbs. You walked out with a flat pack coffee table, 3 scented candles, a plush shark, and a $150 receipt. It feels like a personal failure of willpower, but it isn't. You didn't just go shopping. You entered a finely tuned psychological simulator designed by some of the world's most brilliant retail architects, and its only goal is to bypass your rational brain. Most supermarkets use a grid system. Aisles run parallel. You see what you want, you grab it, you leave. IKEA rejects this entirely. They use what architects call a long, winding path. Alan Penn, a professor at University College London, studied this exact layout. He discovered that the average IKEA store forces you to walk through roughly 80% of its entire showroom. In a normal store, you only see the items on your specific list. Here, you are forced to look at thousands of items you never knew existed, but it gets deeper. The path twists every 15 yards. This is intentional. It keeps your brain visually stimulated. It prevents what retail designers call aisle fatigue. Just as you get bored looking at wardrobes, the path curves, and suddenly you are looking at a perfectly lit Scandinavian kitchen. This brings us to the first major psychological weapon, the Gruen Effect. Named after architect Victor Gruen, it is the exact moment a shopping environment overwhelms your senses. When you enter these highly realistic, cozy room settings, your brain stops treating the trip like a chore. You stop thinking about your bank account. Instead, you start daydreaming about a cleaner, more organized version of your life. You aren't buying a plastic container. You are buying the feeling of being an organized person. By the time you realize you've been walking for 45 minutes, something else kicks in. Spatial disorientation. You cannot see the exit. You cannot see the outside world. There are no windows. There are no clocks. Time dilates. Professor Penn's research revealed that because the exit is hidden, shoppers experience a subtle subconscious anxiety. You think, I might never find this specific item again. If I want it, I have to grab it right now. The layout creates artificial scarcity in an ocean of abundance. Then you hit the Bulla Bulla Bins. This is a specific retail tactic. IKEA deliberately dumps massive quantities of cheap items into giant containers. They don't stack them neatly, they pile them up high. Our brains are hardwired to associate massive, messy piles with a bargain. It signals extreme value. You think, it's only $2. Why not? Once you drop that first item into your yellow bag, the psychological dam breaks. You have committed to buying. The next purchases become significantly easier, but the masterstroke happens after you leave the showroom. You enter the warehouse. Suddenly, the service stops. You have to find the aisle. You have to locate the bin. You have to lift the heavy box onto your cart. Then, you drive it home, open a box with a tiny hex wrench, and spend 3 hours building a bookcase. Logically, this sounds like a terrible consumer experience. You are doing the labor the company should be doing. But in 2011, researchers at Harvard Business School discovered something fascinating, called it the IKEA Effect. The study proved that humans overvalue things they successfully build themselves. We mistake our own labor for high product quality. You don't love that dresser because it is the best dresser on earth. You love it because you built it. This cognitive bias creates immense brand loyalty. You are literally building your own emotional attachment to the company, one screw at a time. And right at the finish line, when your brain is exhausted from decision making, they hit you with the ultimate sensory anchor, the food. IKEA's founder, Ingvar Kamprad, famously said, "It's hard to do business with someone with an empty stomach." The food court is not a side business. It is a calculated pricing illusion. The meals are sold at near cost or loss leader prices. When you see a full meal for $5, your brain subconsciously applies that logic to everything else in the building. You think, if the food is this cheap, the furniture must be an incredible deal too. It reinforces the belief that you spent your money wisely. So, the next time you walk through those sliding doors, look down at the arrows on the floor. Look at the missing clocks. Look at the massive bins of cheap kitchen timers. You aren't just walking through a furniture store. You are walking through a beautifully designed, highly profitable maze. And the maze always wins.